Previously on Chaser.
Wow, Jim. I really didn't believe I'd ever see that face of yours again. And who's that?
This is John Chase.
Well, a legend in person. Glad to see you. The head of the company, Longwood, is sitting safely hidden in his base. The only chance to get him is to attack him when he heads for the South Pole.
I've analyzed his itinerary and picked a place suitable for the attack. A charge of Top-X will bring the tunnel down.
Understood. See you there.
Hello and welcome back to a very long and very tedious level. In case you needed the plan to be explained a little bit more, basically we've been dropped off on our own to go and commandeer ourselves a train. Once we get that, we drive it to where the explosives are sitting, dump them onto the train, and then take it to the place where we're going to blow them up. In terms of actual size, this is probably the biggest level in the game. Unfortunately, the developers neglected to actually really fill it with any kind of content. Sure, it's big, and you can roam about and look at things, but there's nothing to see. It's very much how I felt about GTA 4 when it came out. It was incredibly detailed, and there was a lot of places to explore, but there was nothing there when you went there. And this is very much the same with this level. Big open space, nothing to see. Now, in a sandbox game, you would expect things to be fairly big, but not so much in an FPS game like this. But unfortunately, being who I am, I'm always compelled to explore regardless, so I'm going to be showing pretty much all of that, but obviously at a higher speed. I'll stop every now and then when something interesting happens. But for the most part, this level will predominantly be sped up. The landing pad which we were dropped off at has another mirroring pad on the other side of this canyony area. Fortunately, it's just as locked down as the other one was, and it kind of serves no purpose whatsoever. The actual place we need to be going is off the beaten track, down below into the canyon and across a pipe that leads to another section which you can't really see because there's just too much fog, but you kind of have to blindly grope in places to find out where you need to be. Some more pipes off to the side which don't actually lead anywhere useful, but they're there. I may end up saying that things are kind of pointless, but really it is decoration and it is welcome, but sometimes when you don't know where you need to go, sometimes decoration can be misleading. You may think that you're actually supposed to go in that direction. Here's a fairly good example of that. We've got some guys down below firing grenades at us. Do we need to go that way? No, we don't, but we will anyway. Given that these are the first enemies that we've seen, I don't think I could be blamed for going down here. Obviously I know in advance that this isn't the way we're supposed to go, but I do it anyway. Just because really this lower area can be explored, so I'm going to do it anyway. Trust me, it will be sped up because there's really nothing worth seeing here. Well, except for this guy.
Drop your weapon.
Taking a trip around to the rear of this building, we just find an area where we're not supposed to be. Above us is where we're actually going to be ending up going. It's what leads to the actual train yard place. But we could kind of explore here. We'll be able to see this area from various other places, but we're not actually supposed to be wandering here. There are no enemies, and if we go far enough we can see that the level itself just gets kind of bugged over here. But anyway, let's move on. The thing about levels of this size, and in numerous other games that I played, is that they become so big that you really forget what your objectives are a certain proportion of the way in. You find yourself just wandering from A to B, shooting whatever's in the way without any real idea of what you're actually doing. Sure, you can have the NPCs kind of reminding you every now and then, but eventually it just becomes another A to B slogfest and not really much more than that. And that's pretty much what this level is. Back on top of the pipe, we can now carry on and actually find some enemies to fight. We also get a look at another little fuck you from the game. Around this corner there are 4 or 5 enemies that just fire grenades at you as soon as they see you, so if you didn't know about this in advance, you'd probably be starting from the very beginning of the level again, and it's quite a long trip to walk all the way back here if you haven't been using quick saves. Keep an eye on my health and you'll see that in spite of this large medkit, this is a very troublesome fight. It takes way too long, and even playing conservatively, it still takes its toll. Out of all the resistance fighters, Chaser is the only one who wears a commando suit which looks exactly like the enemy. This leads to some kind of issues you would expect. You would think that it would be some kind of stealth mechanic where you could actually pass as one of the bad guys, but they seem to know exactly who you are as soon as they see you, in spite of you being dressed exactly the way they are, with no way to see your face or anything like that. Not only that, in later levels when we actually come across our own guys, they don't mistake us for one of the bad guys and they let us be. If I've ever seen an ambush point before, this is definitely it. This section isn't particularly difficult. The only problem are the 2 guys who are firing rockets at us. They're the main concern, so we'll try and take them out from as far away as possible, even though they can shoot at us from quite a long distance and can't really stay still, at least in open sight, for much long. There's a problem with trying to snipe these guys, however. Generally you'll want to not be able to see their entire body, because that means you're really in a position where they can just blow the hell out of you. So you want to just kind of see their head. But when you do shoot them in the head, they stumble backwards, so you have to reposition yourself because they don't come forwards again for you to just fire at them. This actually leads to something a little bit humorous. If you get the angle just right, they'll try to fire at you and they'll end up just blowing themselves up. That might have been a little messy, but it got the job done. One thing that I find from this level and onto the final levels is that the health of everything seems to have been ramped up slightly. All of the weapons either do a little bit less damage or the enemies just simply have more health, but it's no longer a case where a single headshot will kill these guys as they would have done before. Now it takes a couple. And if you're not the sort of person to kind of check all the bodies for ammo and things like that, then it can really take a toll on your ammo supply. So you have to be pretty vigilant, and whenever you kill someone, pretty much always check them out and get the ammo that you can. 2 directions to choose from, so we'll go the wrong way first. And once again 2 directions. And once again, the wrong way first. Train tracks. This is something you are going to be seeing a hell of a lot of. Out and to the right, we can see the place behind the building where we kind of wandered around with really nothing going on. And up above it is the area where the ambush was.
I can see him.
Once again, we're very low on health, so easy does it, and probably not for the last time either. In this level, for the majority of the time, the AI won't actually move at all. It won't be like previous levels where they'll come looking for you if you manage to run and get out of the way after they spotted you. They will actually just stand there, and even though it makes it a little bit easier to at least plan your attacks because you know where they are, it does mean you have to go to them and you have to expose yourself in order to make the kill. You can't just run around the corner and take advantage of that split second when the running animation changes to firing. And yes, it's a dead end. You can see what I mean about the enemy placement being misleading. If that guy wasn't on the catwalk, then it's a lot less likely that I would have come this way. But even so, there was no way to know that we had to go any other way. This was really, in terms of game design, the most likely location that we had to go to. So no, a bit of backtracking, and at the end of the tracks we'll find ourselves another door, which really we couldn't see from where we were. This is basically a mirror version of the ladder that we used to get down into the train tracks underground. Well, there's nothing in the central area here, so it looks like we're going up to the roof. For some reason, the one and only scripted train. It's an interesting place to put it because obviously we were in an area where we can't actually get to the train track, so it's interesting to have something to look at. I guess it's welcome because really this place seems pretty dead and it does breathe a little bit of life into things. I think ultimately the developers decided that really Mars is a colonized world and there has to be some sort of civilian activity going on, and not everyone just lives in the domes. I guess trains going back and forwards, especially on established lines like these, does make some sense. But even so, this really is the only scripted train that we see. Just picked up the ammo from the guys who got killed on top of the roof, and now just going to speed the rest of this up. From this point on, we've pretty much said goodbye to the outside world. What we're actually doing now is trying to sneak into the train yard to actually seize the train that we need. Down this hole is the way inside, and here's a medkit which under normal circumstances we'd be extremely grateful for. This grating gives us a little look out to the area where we started. However, it's unlikely that we'll be seeing anything recognisable for a while now. Okay, time to make our way further inside. Now, the problem with this shaft is that it's practically impossible to make your way down without losing at least some health from falling damage. If you didn't pick up the medkit before you went down and you were low on health, then you'd be pretty much fucked. Biggest damage obviously comes from the sections where you have to jump from pipe to pipe, because the mere act of jumping adds a sizable amount of damage on top of things. Luckily at the bottom there's another medkit, so we can at least recoup the losses that we made.
Cover me! Reinforcements!
If it weren't for the explosives that we have, we'd be having a hell of a lot more difficult time. That hole that we just dropped down, usually you'd go down there blindly first of all, and you'd end up just having to crouch in the corner and hope that the guys can't see you. You may have noticed the grenade actually bouncing towards us. That's not something you see very often. And obviously we don't want to be getting too close, so let's just take this guy out from a distance. This is one of those situations that you just wouldn't see anymore. You'd have plenty of cover on the way down, and you would have, well, you would certainly have enough ammunition to take him out from a distance if you had to. In this game, if you don't have the ammo, then you're pretty much screwed. You could have quite a long-winded debate about whether or not that's a good thing. In my own opinion, I would say yes it is, but that's just because I come from an era where this sort of thing was commonplace. These days, I know it seems a little bit cat amongst the pigeons, but I do think that games do kind of hold your hand. But that's kind of how gaming has changed. It's become more about just the experience and getting from start to finish rather than the challenge of getting there. The focus on what gameplay actually means is somewhat changed. Moving along, we've got ourselves another hole in the ground, and this one leads into the actual train depot itself. Fortunately, we've still got some more guys down there, so it's best to take them out before we actually show ourselves. He didn't sound like he was having a fun time. Not particularly exciting, I know, but below us we've got a drop where I think we still have to take damage in order to get down.
We're waiting for him behind the corner.
Well, when I say damage, I don't mean this much damage. There's not a lot to see in here, so I'll just speed this up and we'll go on to the next room. Yep, it's more of the same. Got some guys in the distance and we'll really just kill them as fast as we can. Jesus Christ, that took forever. Here's something that generally I've been unconscious of for quite a while, and it's only in the last few years that I've kind of picked up on it. But it's in situations like this where I'm just firing at guys and waiting until they die. How exactly am I supposed to know when they die? And usually that comes from the audio clip that plays. I think it's very important that the death scream of an enemy has to be unique from any of the normal "I'm being shot" noises. It's a subtle difference, but it actually makes a lot of difference to me. I feel that I'm able to run around and kill people, and knowing exactly when they die actually takes off some of the burden. I don't have to kind of check and remain in cover and wait to see if they died. I know instinctively from the sound that they're dead and I can then move on. It's only when I come across games where it's not quite so clear cut, or it's something that the designers themselves haven't realised, that it gets kind of awkward and I feel frustrated whenever I'm playing. This entire section of getting the train onto the tracks and actually moving takes a long time, so... That sped up period was almost a full minute and a half of just nothing happening. Anyway, we're on the move, and if you thought it was just going to be a simple matter of driving the train to pick up the explosives, well, you're in for a sorry surprise. The track itself needs to be switched over so we can get on our way, and to do that we have to go into the building above us. And of course up there we've got some guys to kill. And if you're like me and went out the wrong side of the train, it might be a little difficult to find out how you're supposed to get up there. Naturally, the dangers don't extend themselves to just enemies. We've got a few more natural things to worry about. What's irritating about this is that once you've made it up the deadly ladder, you have to kind of jump off the top to make sure you don't fall, and that puts you right into the sights of this guy. It's a a very fine line between being challenging and just being aggravating. As I'd highlighted before, the enemies themselves don't move around, so any of them that are hidden in any little nooks and crannies will just stay there and piss you off as you try to clear them out. And pretty much every enemy here is just like that. I really wish that this door would stay open. It doesn't really make much sense in that the enemies are just staying put and they're not going to come and chase me, so if I'm just standing out of line of sight then I'm perfectly safe. There's no need for the door to close, and it just adds a little bit of extra effort that's required on my side. I have to open the door and I have to get the shots in as quick as I can, and it's bad enough that I have to face the fact that they're going to be shooting at me and they're waiting for me, and I have to worry about timing because there's a door as well. A little bit of backtracking here just to make sure we don't get shot from behind. And we've got plenty of explosives left, so we can just continue using those instead of having to go through all the effort of actually aiming at the enemies. I'm not exactly sure what all this equipment is for. It's not as if we really need it all for just spinning a piece of track around. Quick dash down to the tracks and we can get on our way. Oh, no, I guess we're not done yet. Finally! Okay, let's pop into the train carriage and we can get moving. Quick thing to look out for, we've got a train following us on the other tracks. Watch for the soldiers on the side. Yes, they fell off the back. Oh well. In other attempts at this level, they've stayed on the train and not fallen off to their deaths, and they do fire at you as you're moving along, but it doesn't look like that's going to be happening today. Even with those guys on the train, they're fairly easy to dispatch, so you're basically taking a long train ride without really all that much to do. Pause to show you how the game manages to get rid of the train that's following you. Nothing more than just a pole over the tracks. Just up ahead is our destination, so we can slow down the train and meet up with our guys and get the explosives. Oh, it looks like our guys had some trouble. Well, let's see if we can take care of this ourselves. Over in the distance we can see the bodies of our friends, and in the center area we've got the explosive container itself suspended above us. Well, we're out of grenades, so it looks like we're going to have to do this the hard way. Finally. Right, okay, let's move on, shall we? Up the ladder we've got a little control station which controls the explosives container, it'll end up just moving it across and dumping it on the train for us. Whenever I first played this level, I did not know that this particular control panel existed, so I ended up jumping on top of a kind of fenced off area around the container and trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do. It took a long time to figure out this particular bit, but eventually I saw the light. Okay, now we've got the explosives. It must surely just be a case of getting to the end. Let's go! Once again, another train follows us, and I presume that once again all the enemies fell off because there's no one on the train. It doesn't bother to catch up with us, so we can just ignore that and carry on. If you thought the level was long and boring enough as it is, well, here's something else to do. Basically the same thing as we did at the last Crossroads place. Get up into the top building, shoot some guys, press a button and come back down. So since you've seen it all before, I'm just going to speed past all of that. Really, this is the reason why I hate this level. It's not the fact that you have to travel for long distances without doing anything. It's that they simply took this one thing and just repeated it. A little bit of just moving the enemies about, but that makes hardly any difference in this kind of game. It's so lazy and it really pisses me off, and I'm glad to see the back of this level. Of course we're not done yet, we've still got some travelling to do. The carriage itself locks you down whenever it starts to pick up speed. I guess it's some sort of limitation in the game engine where it can't really deal with things if it's not already moving at a full constant speed. Once it's moving, however, we're free to roam about and we can even jump off if we like. However, if we do that, we die instantly. However, on one occasion I do remember jumping off and actually surviving. It did mean that I had to walk my way to the destination, and by God, that takes a long time. It was in fact a gimmick I was going to use where I was actually going to show how long it would take to walk from all the destinations to each other. But each of the crossroads sections is capped off by a box region where you get killed if you walk into it, so it pretty much effectively nixed that. Oh god, it's another crossroads section. Oh no, we're going through this one, thank god. A level transition puts us on the other side of the carriage. Don't get worried though, just because it's a new level doesn't mean we have all that much to do. In fact, we've only got one encounter to worry about and it'll be coming up fairly soon. So for the time being, just enjoy the scenery.
Stop him!
You may have heard some guys there. They were on the other side of the carriage from us. If we had been standing there looking at them, they would have just fired all of those grenades right in our face, so we got lucky. Here's something else to look at. I wish they put this much effort into the previous part of this level, because that entire central section with the crossroad bits was very stale and repetitive. If they'd put in some environmental niceties here and there, I think it would have helped it, but still, it was definitely the weak link in this three-part chain.
Heading straight into the trap. Fire!
A minor stationary ambush point there. At least this time they've got their act together and aren't moving, so it won't be chucking the guys off the train. For the most part we're safe, so if we just stay inside the carriage and try not to get too cocky, I think we'll get through this. Here's a tip that may come in handy: don't try to fire projectiles from a moving platform. I heard someone die out there. I wonder if he got shot by his own man. Anyway, moving on. We're actually out of encounters now. It's just basically a train ride to the end, so I'll just speed up to the point where things actually happen. And it appears we're in position. If we look above us, we've got another train track which goes overhead, and that is where Longwood's train is scheduled to go, so it's probably best that we just get the hell out of here. Oh, it looks like this guy isn't going to be coming with us. I'll miss you, Larry. It is Larry, isn't it? Anyway, goodbye. Judging from the structures around here, it looks like we're in some gigantic cavern, and we've got the train track suspended by these concrete reinforcements. And it's one of these reinforcements that we're making our escape on. There's a building down at the bottom which hopefully should shield us from the blast. The two guys that we're with, I believe, are actually Sid and Jay. These are the only ones that seem to have survived along with ourselves. As far as the level goes, we are now at the end, so Godspeed to Laurie, and I'll see you next time. Next time on Chaser.